Yo, party people, number 2. Okay, so I'm not going to backtrack. So you have to go back and see the first video if you want to see where I'm at. Okay, so we're in Revelations chapter 8, okay? Revelation chapter 8. So I'm just going to read this first section. So when he opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about a half an hour. So we've already opened six seals. Chapter 7 was a pause, right? We saw the 144,000 being marked by God. We saw a move forward into the future of the trip, because you're seeing here in chapter 7 all the multitude that died during the tribulation, right before God's throne. John is describing that in chapter 7. Now in chapter 8, we're seeing the seventh seal break, right? Jesus is the only one that can touch the scroll. What's inside the scroll, the further judgments of God cannot be done until the scroll is opened, and the seals must be broken to open the scroll. So now we're on the seventh seal. So we already covered the incense. So it says, when he opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about a half an hour. And I saw the 7 angels who stand before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets. Then another angel, having a golden censer, came and stood at the altar. He was given much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense with the prayers of the saints ascended before God from the angel's hand. Then the angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and threw it to the earth. And there were noises, thunderings, lightnings, and an earthquake. So the 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. So I want to focus right now. Last video I focused on the incense and the prayers, and what that represents. The incense in the book of Numbers 16:37 was intercession, right? The priests were interceding for the people because there had been sin within the camp. And so they went in at Moses's and God's command to intercede for the people, and they took incense from the altar, right? The earthly altar, of course. And then in Ezekiel, of course, remember Ezekiel is he prophesies in the in-between times after the kingdom of Israel falls, right? And so they're taken captive into Babylon, but he sees the very end, right? And so he sees the glory of God departing from Israel. And part of that vision is the angel that goes in and takes the coals from the altar, and he scatters it over Jerusalem as judgment, right? So both of those glimpses from the Old Testament apply here. So whenever you're seeing these angels going in and taking something from the altar, that means there's the prayers, right? There's prayers that are going up with the incense, and then we know that judgment has begun, right? So both of those circumstances in the Old Testament are being applied here as well. But what's freaking awesome is the trumpets, right? So trumpets represent so many things in the Old Testament that are powerful, that is God showing up, baby. So they're used to call forth the king. So when there's a new king, they blow the trumpet. Year of Jubilee, they blow the trumpet. All these different situations. So I'm going to read to you a few of them. Let me find them real quick, because it was awesome. Oh, the movement of the camps. Okay, so chapter 10, Numbers chapter 10. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, make 2 silver trumpets for yourself. You shall make them of hammered work. You shall use them for calling the congregation and for directing the movement of the camps. When they blow both of them, all the congregation shall gather before you at the door of the tabernacle of meeting. But if they blow only one, then the leaders of the heads of the divisions of Israel shall gather to you. When you sound the advance, the camps that be on the east side shall then begin their journey. When you sound the advance the second time, then the camps that lie on the south side shall begin their journey. They shall sound the call for them to begin their journeys. And when the assembly is to be gathered together, you shall blow. But not sound the advance. The sons of Aaron, the priests, shall blow the trumpets, and these shall be to you as an ordinance forever throughout your generations. When you go to war in your land against the enemy who oppresses you, then you shall sound an alarm with the trumpets, and you will be remembered before the Lord your God, and you will be saved from your enemies. Also in the day of your gladness and in your appointed feasts, and at the beginning of your months, you shall blow the trumpets over your burnt offerings and over the sacrifices of your peace offerings, and they shall be a memorial for you before your God. I am the Lord your God. Now then there's also, I want to read to you here this is 1 Kings chapter 1:38. So Zadok the priest, Nathan the prophet, Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, the Cherethites and the Pelethites went down and had Solomon ride on King David's mule and took him to Gibeon. Then Zadok the priest took a horn of oil from the tabernacle and anointed Solomon, and they blew the horn. And all the people said, "Long live King Solomon." And all the people went up after him, and they rejoiced with great joy. So, and you see that throughout the Bible. You see when, that wicked Athaliah, she was a monster. And then the grandson that she didn't know was still alive. The same thing. They blew the trumpet, and she came out, "Treason, treason!" Psycho woman. You never meet anybody named Athaliah, right? Nobody names their kid Athaliah. So, anyways, that's a story of a queen in the Old Testament in First and Second Kings. So the trumpet is powerful. The trumpet is a declaration of many things in God's kingdom, and so when that happens, every single demonic spirit recognizes exactly what that is, which in so many ways is sad. They gave up everything to follow Lucifer, and it's so stupid. Okay. So when he opened the seven seals, there was silence in heaven for about a half an hour, and I saw the seven angels who stand before God, and to them were given seven trumpets. Then another angel, having a golden censer, came and stood at the altar. He was given much incense, that he should offer it with all the prayers of the saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense with the prayers of the saints ascended before God from the angel's hand. Then the angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and threw it to the earth. And there were noises, thunderings, lightnings, and an earthquake. So the seven angels who had the seven trumpets prepared themselves to sound. All right, so now we're beginning the seven trumpets. So this is an increase in the judgments, right? So in the my old commentary, they were saying that there were people back when this was written, because it's an old commentary, that believed that the seals and the trumpets were the same judgments from different views. But they went on to describe how that can't be true, because you're seeing an increase in destruction, that it's the first seals, and then they also believe that it's after the first seals, when there's the silence, that's when the pre-trib rapture happens, is before the trumpet sound, but after the seals are broken, so that at least that's what they say. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I'm not sure. Okay, so now we see the first trumpet is sounded, and hail and fire followed, mingled with blood, and they were thrown to the earth, and a third of the trees were burned up, and all green grass was burned up. Now this is huge. Okay, so this is a huge, huge judgment. I mean, you can't even imagine how huge this is. As humans, we can't imagine that a third of all of the trees and all green grass being burned up. That is insane. And they also talked about in the old school commentary about how many of these things are repeats of what you see in some ways of the judgments against Egypt, right? When Moses was there and God was judging Egypt before they left Egypt. So you definitely see some parallels with that as well. So that's another thing you can go back and study. Second trumpet, the seas are struck. Then the second angel sounded, and something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea. And a third of the sea became blood, and a third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. So they were, this is definitely an island of some kind. The commentaries were in agreement with that. And somehow it is such a huge explosion, it impacts the entire world to some degree, right? The third trumpet, the water struck. Then the angel sounded, and a great star fell from heaven, burning like a torch, and it fell on a third of the rivers and on the springs of water. The name of the star is wormwood. A third of the waters became wormwood, and many men died from the water because it was made bitter. So the commentary, again, they thought that this was going to be a meteor of some kind. But then I heard someone a long time ago do a complete study on the word wormwood, and they traced it back to an area in Russia. And they were saying that they thought that this was some kind of a nuclear bomb or something, that they thought that it could be something like that as well. So I don't have that information because it was a long time ago, so that's something you guys can look into. But of course, it's devastating. It's a huge impact. Then we'll go into the fourth trumpet tomorrow because I'm out of time. All right, guys, read your Bible. Jesus is coming. Peace.